Hi, my name is Angel. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to a reading vlog that I am so excited for. I feel like this has definitely become a video that I get so excited to film and I really look forward to just doing this whole thing. So that is where I'm going to be reading the most mentioned horror books on Booktube from 2025. So basically how I prepare for this video is at the end of the year when everyone's favorites books of the year lists start coming out, I scour YouTube. I spend a lot of time searching for best books lists and I add them all to an extensive playlist. Then I go through every single video there, and obviously here I'm looking for horror books, so that helps to make it a little bit easier because I don't have to tally up every single book that's mentioned. I'm just tallying the horror books that are mentioned the most, and then at the end I have 3 books that I get to read and see how they measure up. I will have that playlist linked down below in case you are curious. There are books across all genres mentioned on that playlist. A lot of creators, smaller creators to go and check out, so definitely feel free. The link will be down below. It is an unlisted playlist, so you will need the link to access it, but feel free to check it out if you're interested. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the TBR. Let's look at the 3 most mentioned horror books from Booktube in 2025. The first one that I have here got 9 mentions across Booktube, and that is The Lamb by Lucy Rose. This was mentioned by Sin's Book Nook, In Sophie's Books, Gunpowder Fiction and Plot, Alicia Runs and Reads, Emma Reads, Erin Megan, Literary Love 123, Fiber Artsy, and Criminale. So pretty good amount of people really love this one. The book that came in second has 8 mentions across Booktube, and that is Play Nice by Rachel Harrison. This book was mentioned by Reading Riley, Amy Key's Literature and Learning, Haley Hughes, Pages and Polish, Bree Reads Books, Francesca's Books, Mandy's Morgue of Horror, and Too Many Heathers. And last but not least, this book had 5 mentions, and that is Shy Girl by Mia Ballard. This was mentioned across Booktube by Chris Reads, Haley Hughes, Pages and Polish, Brooklyn's Library, and This Story Ain't Over. So those are the 3 books that I'm going to be reading in this reading vlog, and I'm so excited. I feel like there couldn't have been a better outcome because all 3 of these books are actively on my TBR. They are books that I really wanted to prioritize in 2025 and I just didn't get to, so now this is like the perfect opportunity to finally knock these books off my TBR, to finally get in on the hype and understand what everybody's saying, and I feel like it'll be a great way to kick off the new year. So let's just go ahead and get reading, okay? I don't need to be talking anymore. I will see you guys in a little bit.
Book haunted me. It was disgusting. I could not put this down until I finished it.
I am now just over halfway through Shy Girl. I think I am 53% of the way through according to my Kindle. I will say it's been a very quick read, and it did actually take me like physical effort to put it down to film an update because the temptation was strong to just keep reading and finish the book, but I'm like, no, I have to like at least do one update halfway through. I know it's like on the shorter side, but it's just so interesting and fascinating so far. Like I'm really invested in the story, and I think that the way that it's written is really adding to that. So if you guys have not heard of this book, I'll give you like the general premise. This is everything I knew before going into it. We have a main character who is kind of in like a rough time of her life. She lost her job, so she's been unemployed for 5 months, and she's basically like burned through all her savings for rent and everything, and now she's gotten to the point where she is late on rent and is facing eviction, and as kind of like a last resort, she ends up signing up for a sugar daddy website or an app or something, and she begins talking to a man named Nathan, and Nathan, they go out a couple of times, and he tells her that what he is seeking in this arrangement is for her to pretend to be his dog. For 8 hours a day, he is going to pay her a very, very good amount of money for this. She's going to get paid weekly. She just has to do her 8 hours a day, and that's pretty much it. So there is a little bit of back and forth. She does take time to consider this before she makes her decision, and then she ultimately decides that yes, she's going to do it because it is a good amount of money. Like, she's going to be making double her rent every single week, and you can do a lot with that, right? So I feel like it's not explicitly said, but I feel like if I was in that situation, like, the mindset I would have would be like, well, you know, I could do it for like a month or 2 months or something, and then just have all this money, and I could stop, and then I'll have some savings while I work up to getting another job or something. So you kind of get the idea, the setup. Our main character as well is really not well mentally, extremely depressed, extreme anxiety. Maybe, I'm not trying to like diagnose anybody here, but maybe a little bit of OCD, because she does these like rituals. Basically everything that she does is very methodical and has to be done a certain way, and that is the only way that she feels like okay and kind of content with existing in the world, is that she has these little breakfast rituals and shower rituals and after work rituals. Well, not after work, because I guess she's unemployed, but you get what I mean. So she's a very, very interesting character to read from, and I feel like there have been a few quotes already that are a little bit relatable for me personally, and I feel like this is a character that a lot of people could relate to, and a lot of the things that she's saying and experiencing will resonate with a lot of people. So that's been really, really interesting so far, and has really helped to hook me pretty early on. The writing is very like metaphorical, and it also, like, we're getting to the point now where she has taken this job and she has spent her first night as this man's dog, and it is very psychological and very claustrophobic, and I feel like that comes across so well with the way that it's written. And I'm gonna use that to segue into something else, because I had not seen this before until literally like the day before I picked this book up to read it. Somebody that I follow on Booktube posted like a long video essay where they were like, I'm convinced this book is AI slop. So now I was like, wait a second, what? So I go to Goodreads and I read some more reviews, and there are an astounding number of people that are convinced that this is written by AI. I do everything that I can to avoid interacting with anything AI. I've never used ChatGPT. I've never used any of the popular like AI chatbots or anything like that. Like, I do everything in my power to ignore the AI searches on Google or other web browsers. So I'm not really familiar with the way that AI structures its sentences and things like that, but I guess that people that are very familiar with that and have studied that say that a lot of the way that she is writing in this book is very, very similar to how ChatGPT or other AI bots, I guess, would write. So I feel like from what I've read about it, there's not really any definitive answer. Nobody can positively say that this was an AI generated book. I feel like, in my personal opinion, I feel like it's unlikely. Again, I'm not an expert, but I just feel like, because this is kind of a big thing surrounding this book when you look it up, which I didn't know beforehand, all I've seen is just like positive reviews. I figured, you know, let's just talk about it for a second. Like I said, I feel like, in my opinion, it's unlikely to be AI. I feel like it's more likely that, you know, this is a book that was self-published before it got picked up by a traditional publisher. Mia Ballard is a very small, newer author, and I think that it's probably very common for some authors that are a little bit inexperienced, have more unpolished writing, and, you know, AI has to get its stuff from somewhere, right? The only reason that AI writes the way that it does is because there are books that exist that are written that way in the first place. Basically, I don't know what I'm trying to say here. I just wanted to touch on it because it's such a popular topic. I know another thing with this book is that her original cover art, I guess, was stolen from an artist without giving him credit. She has spoken about the situation, and I believe that she said that she took like the art for all of her covers she got from Pinterest and like public domain art for some of her other stuff. So I guess supposedly she took the picture of this dog from Pinterest and didn't check and credit the artist or get approval or consent or anything like that. So now it's being republished with a different cover, and I can definitely understand why after that people are a little bit more critical and looking a little bit closely at the way that she's writing. I don't know. Just let me know down below, like, what are, I guess, your thoughts on that? If you've read this book, do you think it's possible that it's AI generated? If you haven't read this book, like, do you know a little bit more about AI than I do? Because I'm pretty clueless when it comes to that, about how things are written and formatted by AI. Anyways, that's about all that I wanted to say for this first update. I'm really interested in the story and curious to see where it goes, because it is, I don't know if it's technically like marketed as extreme horror, but I'm pretty sure it falls under that genre, and I've heard that there are some very extreme things that happen in here that kind of mentally scar a lot of the people that read it. So I'm really curious to see where it's gonna go, what's gonna happen. Maybe I'll come back and be like, I regret being curious about this, but I'm gonna keep reading. My plan is to finish it today. Like I said, it's been a very quick read, so let's go do that, and I will come back to you guys in a little bit. It's after work, and it's after a workout, so I'm looking a little crazy right now, but I did finish Shy Girl yesterday, shortly after I talked to you guys in my first update, but I wanted to let it sit with me a little bit before I talked to you, because I wasn't entirely sure what my rating was gonna be. There were a few moments where it felt like it could be a 5-star, but in the end, I feel like the ending was not necessarily disappointing, because I do like where the story goes for our character. I will say it was slightly predictable. Like, pretty early on, I feel like it's easy to figure out how things are going to end and what is going to happen. Everything that I expected to happen did happen. So I don't know, I'm kind of torn, because like I liked it, but I just wish that it did something different or went like a little bit darker, although it was extremely dark and disturbing at points. I would say this is definitely a book that is unsettling and just made me feel so deeply uncomfortable while I was reading it. And I feel like the main reason for that feeling of like just being horrified and heartbroken and a little bit traumatized has to do with the fact that the events that take place in this book are like real life horror. And I don't want to like give too much away, but like, especially as a woman, you know, it's kidnapping and sexual assault and torture and just like horrible things that happens to people in the real world. And so because of that, like, it just, I don't know, it just felt so real, and the way that it was delivered within the story really gets under your skin and makes you feel unsettled. And it definitely like made me have visceral reactions to what I was reading, and really truly did make me feel deeply uncomfortable. It's very clearly a feminist horror book. It is about autonomy and women being kept and confined and being expected to be subservient and serve men and be obedient towards men. I think all of that was very clear within the story, and of course it's kind of an extreme metaphor with it, but I really liked, I don't know, just the way that it came together. I liked this quote from like the author's note at the end. She says, talking about why she wrote the book and what she was trying to get across, When autonomy is stripped away, revenge becomes less about vengeance and more about rewriting a narrative in which women refuse to remain victims. And I feel like that sums it up pretty well. I think this is a book that is going to like haunt me, where I'm going to think about it for a long time to come, but I do recognize the few flaws that it does have. I can see there was definitely a lot of repetitive usage of certain words within the writing, so I can understand, again, maybe some of those AI claims and why people just necessarily don't like the writing. Again, it was a little bit predictable, but overall, I really, really enjoyed this one. I think anytime a book like that can really get under my skin and make me react and feel a certain way, or just feel any sort of strong emotions, it's usually a book that I feel like is pretty good. I'm very, very happy to finally have read this because it's been on my TBR for so long. It's been high priority on my TBR for so long, so I'm glad that this video finally gave me the push to read it. I was honestly so happy when I saw it coming up in a lot of people's lists because I was just like so ready to pick this one up. If you want psychological horror that is claustrophobic and unsettling and does not hold back in weirdness and strangeness, if you like things with, you know, women breaking out of oppressive situations, if you like transformation type of horror books, I would definitely recommend giving this one a try. We are going to move on now to book number 2, which I did start today. I'm only about 30 pages in, so I don't have an update, but I will see you guys later. This book is perfect. So I don't know a better pitch that I could give. This book is perfect. Read it. Listen, we're not getting very creative with filming locations in this video so far. This is just the easiest place to film. If you do hear like music in the background, that's coming from the other room, so just try to ignore it. I'm here to do an update on Play Nice. I am 206 pages in. I'm on chapter 25, and that's a good chunk of the way through because I think this is only like 320 something pages. I haven't done an update because I honestly, like, I don't know what it is. Like, historically, I've loved Rachel Harrison. Well, maybe loved is too strong of a word. I've really enjoyed her. Some of her other ones have been kind of average for me, but I've never like disliked or hated a Rachel Harrison book, and I read every single one because I love like the vibes. I love what she's doing, but I don't know. I just am not really connecting with this one so far. I don't have a lot to say, and that's why I haven't done an update yet. This is about a woman. What's her name? Give me one second. Cleo, and she has 2 sisters. She is an influencer, and she grew up with an abusive alcoholic mother who has always claimed that the house that they lived in was not haunted, it was possessed. And she ended up writing a book about this whole thing, and Cleo and her sisters and her father, they all kind of had a pact. They all promised each other that they were never going to read this book. Now they're all fully grown adults. Cleo is an influencer. I can't remember if I said that already. And the book starts off with her mother dying. So obviously she goes home and is reunited with her sisters and with her father. And she is the only one out of the group that wants to attend her mother's funeral. So she goes, and it's a little bit awkward, but she ends up finding out that all this time their mother has held on to the house. They thought, because she moved away and the kids were taken from her custody, and they all believed that she had sold the house and no longer was going there, living there, or anything. Come to find out, she's owned the house the whole time. She didn't want to sell it because she truly believed it was possessed, and she didn't want to pass that on to somebody else. And then we also get the bomb dropped on us, and Cleo gets the bomb dropped on her that her mother actually died in that house. So not only has she owned it the whole time when everybody thought she sold it, but she also has been making regular visits to it, or at least sometime recently moved back into the house or something like that. And it's all kind of a mystery and a very strange situation. So Cleo, she decides that she is going to renovate the house to sell it. She does this as kind of like a social media thing because she wants to like document it and try to gain new followers and kind of a new audience from it. But she's also really the only one that wants anything to do with the house anymore. Like her sisters and her father are very like pushing for it to just, you know, sell. Like they don't want to have anything to do with it. They just want to sell the house. But Cleo is fighting back and saying like, let me take on the responsibility of doing this because I want to do it and make it into something nice and then sell it, and then we'll all get a little bit more money from it. So now we have that storyline of her fixing up this house. She is not staying there every night, but she has been staying overnight a few times, and since the very first moment that she stepped foot back in this house, things have been very, very strange, and now she is starting to question if what her mother said was really true, or if she just kind of like is psyching herself out with it, because she was very, very young when all of the events took place within this house, whether it was possessed and everything that happened with their mother, and the abuse that they went through in this house. She was very, very young and has definitely a lot more repressed memories than her siblings do, as they were a lot older while all of this was happening. So she ends up finding a copy of the book in the house that the mother wrote about the possession, the haunting, and the copy is annotated from her mother, specifically written to Cleo, and it's basically like, Cleo, I knew you would come back, like I knew that you would be the one to find this. So that's been really, really interesting. We have been getting not like full excerpts from that book, like we're just getting 1 or 2 pages every now and then, so it doesn't take over the plot of the book, which I like. And getting the little annotations from her mom is a really, really fun addition to the book. Obviously, at this point, it's reminding me a lot of other haunted house books that I've read, specifically with like the inclusion of the novel from I don't know if novel is the right word, but the book from her mother. It's reminding me of Home Before Dark by Riley Sager, which I wasn't really a big fan of, but it's also reminding me of things like Just Like Home by Sarah Gailey and The September House, where it is a haunted house, but it's a metaphor for abuse, and it's about like difficult situations and relationships, specifically mother and daughter relationships. And Just Like Home and The September House are both books that I really, really enjoyed. So I don't know why this one's not working for me. I don't know if maybe I'm just like, I've read those two, I love those two, and I don't feel like reading it again. I just feel like right now at this point, like it's not doing anything differently than what I would expect with that kind of very vague descriptor of the book, a haunted house that's actually a toxic family dynamic situation. There is also a little bit of a romantic side plot in here, which is something that is very common with Rachel Harrison's books and things that I've enjoyed in her books before. Like one of my favorite Rachel Harrison's is Such Sharp Teeth, and that one has a romantic side plot that I did really enjoy. This one, I don't know, I'm not feeling their chemistry and I don't really care for it. I just feel like nothing in this book is really connecting with me, and I don't have any strong feelings towards it one way or the other. Like I just am sitting in the middle. I'm along for the ride. Like I'm gonna read it and see what happens, but I don't know if I like really care. Like not that I don't care, it's just like, I don't know. I have no feelings towards the book, and that's so weird, and it's kind of like frustrating to sit here and say that, because obviously I want to give a meaningful review, but like, you know, sometimes you get really immersed in a story and it's more than a book. You're creating this whole world inside of your head. This one is just, this is a book and I am reading this book, and that's exactly how it feels. I do wish that we were getting a little bit more of a glimpse into like the influencer side of things with Cleo. That is something that I really, really enjoy reading in books. I have found about myself, especially horror and thriller books, when the main character is an influencer and we get an insight into that and all of the little mundane things that they do and like how they curate their feed and curate posts. Every now and then she mentions like, oh, I had this person take some pictures of me and then I posted them online. But we don't really get a whole lot of information other than that, vague mentions of like brand deals, but I want more of like the day-to-day of her doing influencer things. I don't know why. It's something that I really, really enjoy reading, and I feel like if you're gonna make your main character an influencer, why not go all the way with it? I'm gonna stop talking now, and hope that something connects with me a little bit more strongly in the later section of the book. This last like third that I have to go, I will probably just give you guys an update once I finish it, and hopefully I will have more to say. Hello, a little change of scenery. We are now in the bedroom. This is my friend Laszlo. I have quite a few updates to give you guys. First of all, play nice, we can talk about this. I did finish it, and I don't have too much more to say. There were parts of this that I enjoyed. I love me a good possession story, and I loved the demon in here, and getting to see that, and getting like to see that it is very much so a demon possession that is happening. I really, really love that. I think that there were interesting things within the story. There is kind of like a mystery, if you want to call it that, or just like kind of a psychological aspect of our main character not being able to trust anyone, including herself, because her family is telling her certain things to protect her. She obviously, her mother is dead, and she can't confront her mother in person about everything that happened. She doesn't know if what she is reading in this book of what her mother said happened in the house is true, because her mother is writing things that she supposedly said as a child that she doesn't remember, but nobody in her family will really tell her the truth. She can't rely on her memory, and there's nobody else to ask. So it definitely has that aspect to it of like, who do you turn to when you can't even trust yourself? And she is just constantly like in this battle, this inner battle, because she is experiencing these things that seem very real, but to her and to everybody else, it seems like it is just a mental health issue, and similar to what her mother went through, because everybody believes that her mom was just struggling. She had substance abuse issues, and was kind of paranoid and delusional, and now she is going through the same thing, and she knows that there's not really anybody that she can turn to. So I did like that. I like the way that that was approached within the story. I liked her main character too. I think she was really interesting to follow, because she's not entirely unlikable, but she definitely makes some very questionable decisions and is not like the greatest person all around. And I really, really enjoyed that, because I feel like that makes the story more engaging, and it pulls you in, because she's slightly unlikable, but not enough to turn you off from the story. And she's definitely not like a bad person. She's just someone that you have to kind of put a little bit more effort into understanding why she might be doing the things that she's doing. I don't know. I wasn't a very big fan of the ending. I feel like, in my opinion, like what happened with the house and with the demon and everything, I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me. I feel like things were just kind of wrapped up a little bit too quickly and a little bit too neatly for what I would have liked to see within the book and within like this type of story. I don't know, it just like, I liked a lot of the things that it was presenting in here, and the toxic mother-daughter dynamic and the tension within the entire family and the psychological aspect, but nothing really connected with me. I'm gonna give this 3 stars because I don't think it's a bad book. I'm still going to continue to read Rachel Harrison because I really enjoy what she's doing in the horror community, but this one just didn't do it for me. I don't know why. It's just a personal thing, and I can acknowledge that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with this book, and I'm so happy that so many people are loving this one and really connecting with it.
It was so emotional, so beautiful, so tragic, so bleak. It was everything, and I loved it so much.
It's me again, literally like the same place I was just sitting talking about the last book, but I've been reading The Lamb. I started this last night and I read a little bit, like 30 pages, and now I am on page 146. So it's been a very, very quick read and very, very interesting so far. The main character that we are reading from is an 11-year-old girl whose name is, I have it written down, Margot. And it's hard to keep track of her name, and for a minute, like at the beginning of the book, I wasn't sure if she was going to have a name because her mother constantly refers to her as little one. Very rarely is her name used when she's talking to her mother or other adult figures in her life. So this is a book about a young girl, like I just said, Margot, and her mom. They live in this very small homestead cottage, kind of out in like the back roads by the woods in this town. And her mother, Margot's mother, has always had a taste for flesh and blood. So they're cannibals and they rely on what the mother calls strays, hikers, whoever, people that get lost, to stumble upon their home because it's kind of out there in the middle of nowhere, and they bring them in, make them feel happy and safe, and then they eat them because they taste better if they die when they're happy. Margot's father is not in the picture. We are still getting information about what happened. Supposedly he walked out on them when Margot was, I think, like 4 years old, and it's a very sensitive topic with her mother. She can't really talk very openly about him. At the beginning of the book, I feel like it kind of jumped around a little bit, like we were getting like these little stories of different moments in Margot's life and her mother's life, and I thought maybe that was gonna be kind of the whole book, but now I think we've gotten to the point where like it has kind of mellowed out and become like a linear plot. I don't know if mellowed out is the correct term, but like we're not jumping around as much and we are just following Margot kind of in this day-to-day life. Like I said, she's 11 years old, and I am wondering if we are going to follow her through more of her life, or if we are just getting like this one little moment in her life at this certain age that she's at. But the pivotal moment of the book where things kind of start to pick up a little bit is with the arrival of a stranger named Eden. And of course, she comes to the door and they are getting into business mode. They're getting ready to drug this woman and get ready to eat her. But they realize her mother just has this feeling that she's not like the others. She's not a stray. And she stops that plan and takes this woman in and allows her to stay there, and then they very quickly become entangled in an intimate relationship with each other. And it has kind of changed the dynamic between Margot and her mother, because there's now this other person that her mother cares for and loves, and Margot is now feeling like her mother doesn't love her as much as she did or as much as she wants her to. One thing that I do think is really interesting about like the whole setup of the story is that Margot is like outside of the home. She's kind of like a normal girl. Like she goes to school. She gets on the school bus every day and goes to school. And it's just not like what you would expect from this type of story. I feel like with the setup and everything of like what her life is like at home, I would have fully thought that she was not in school and they were just kind of living out there off grid. But it's interesting to see like the parallels between that of like her being at school and interacting with other children where they're using modern technology and cell phones and everything, and then she goes home and she's kind of like in this like dark, dingy, weird place, and her mom listens to cassettes all the times, and then they don't really have like technology. I don't know, it's just a very interesting like what is the word I'm looking for? Like, two different things. Drastic opposites? I don't know. Right now, I don't have a lot to say. I have a lot of questions about all of the characters and their lives and where we're gonna go in this book. I most of the time when I read a book synopsis, I read it, I add it to my TBR, and then I don't read it again. So I don't know what this actually says in the synopsis and like if it alludes to anything that we're supposed to be looking forward to within the book, but at this present moment I can't really tell you where it's gonna go or like what's gonna happen. But I'm fully invested and I am questioning everything that I'm presented with. I am also really, really enjoying the way that this is written. It's very like cold and kind of emotionless and like detached with the writing style, but also just the characters themselves and the way that they speak to one another, and being inside Margot's mind is very, very fascinating. I think this is definitely another book that's gonna fall into that like toxic mother-daughter dynamic and having things to say about that. Like the whole thing right now is about mommy issues because you know, Margot and her mom, right? But then her mom's talking about her mother, and then Eden's talking about her mother, and it's all just kind of like coming together. But I think right now, like the biggest thing that I feel like is the core theme is just the fact that like what your parents tell you and the reality they build for you at home becomes your entire world, becomes your entire belief system, and how like easily impacted children are, I think is a very, very present theme in here. Just seeing everything that Margot has been raised to believe and has been taught from her mother and how that is affecting her life. And that's why, like I said, I don't know if we're gonna follow her further in her life. I think that would be really, really interesting to see the long-lasting impact of growing up the way that she has, but I don't know like where things are gonna go from here. I don't know how this is gonna end. That's mostly all of my thoughts on this book right now. But yeah, I'm very heavily invested in what's happening and very excited to see where it goes because I just have no predictions at this moment. So it's been an interesting reading experience and I'm very excited to get back to it. So I will see you guys probably after I finish the book because I think it's gonna go by pretty quickly. Okay, I have finished the book. Before we get into that though, I want you guys to let me know down below which version, like which book cover do you prefer, this one or this one. I feel like I'm having such a difficult time because like this is one of those books where I feel like I genuinely love both of these cover designs for different reasons, although I'm like slightly leaning towards this one. So let me know down below which one do you prefer and why, if you have a reason. Anyway, sad to say, I don't think that I liked this book and I'm still like kind of confused about how I even feel about it because I liked the writing, I liked the tone of the story, I liked the general idea of the story, and it definitely has a lot of things that like I enjoy. Like I liked the cannibalistic elements of it. It really, really reminded me of Brother by Anya Alborn, which is about another like cannibalistic family. And then it also reminded me of this movie called We Are What We Are, which is about a cannibalistic family, and those are both forms of media that I really, really enjoy, and so I feel like this should be something that I enjoy. It's bleak, it's depressing, like it is utterly heartbreaking. Like this is a book that will make you feel like absolute shit, and normally I love that. I love books that make me depressed and just feel like absolutely hopeless. This one did that, but I don't think I liked it, and I think it really comes down to reading it towards the end. Things are wrapping up, things are happening, and I'm like, okay, you know, I understand the underlying themes within the story, but I'm questioning what the point is. Like, I literally was reading this, I probably had like 10 minutes left in the book, like 5%, and I just stopped and I was like, what is the point of this? And it just like is not a good feeling when you're reading a book. It's also strange because I kind of did like the ending, but I also really didn't like the ending, and I can't get into specifics here obviously because I can't spoil the whole thing, but I also feel like there were things that just didn't make sense overall in the book. Like, the main thing, and I mentioned this in my last update, is like, with the situation that we are presented with, how our main character Margot is growing up in this home, the fact that she still goes to school and is around like other children in a very like modern seeming time is so strange, and it feels out of place in the story, and we are never really given a reason for why. Like, does her mother want her out of the house, so she sends her to school? Does her mother like value education and she wants her to get an education for whatever reason? Like, I don't see in the situation of the story and the very isolated, secluded life that they live, why she would need to go to school and like take the bus to school. So like, the bus drives past their house twice a day. They pick Margot up, they drop her off after school. And I feel like with the lifestyle they live, like, what is the reason for that? It just does, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me, and it's never really addressed, like, why they live such a strange life. The mother seemingly doesn't have a job or do anything for work, and I know they live in a very rundown home and they are like always kind of starving, and that's why they eat people. But then like, how does she, you know, because school is, although there are a lot of programs to make it affordable and to give, you know, like free lunches and things to kids, like, it costs money. You know, school supplies, for example, like how is anything paid for if this child is going to school and functioning as a normal human? Like, it just, I don't know, I can't add it up in my brain. The other thing I don't understand is, yes, they live like kind of in a area that's isolated from the rest of the town, and there are a lot of hiking trails. It's kind of, I don't know, really out there, and obviously they rely on the strays and on these hikers that get lost to come by their home, but at no point is there any mention of like any sort of investigation into these disappearances. Like, okay, if you know that there is a high rate of hikers disappearing in this specific area, you go to search that area. Hey, look, there's a house here. Wouldn't you go to the house and say, hey, we're looking for these missing hikers. Did you happen to see them? Like, that never happens. And I'm like, what? Like, how would people not look into that? Or like, literally, like I said, just ask them if they've spotted any hikers around the area. It just, I don't know. There's things that don't add up about the whole situation. And I feel like that, on top of like me already feeling like I didn't really enjoy it, makes me enjoy it less. I don't think I have too much more to say. This is very gory, and it does not hold back on that front. Like, the murders and the very methodical process of prepping these bodies to be consumed, and the way that they are prepared in cooking, and the way that they eat them, and the way that they taste, like, all of that is described in great detail, and I did really enjoy that element. And I love the exploration of the relationship, and at the core of the story, it's really about Margot just wanting love from like literally anyone she can get it from, and it's a very heartbreaking story. And I don't know, a lot of it resonated with me, but I just don't feel like the execution was the greatest, and it had so much potential to be something that I really, really loved. So I don't know, I initially was thinking I was gonna give it 3 stars. Now, after talking everything out, I feel like maybe like 2.5 stars might be a rating that makes a little bit more sense in my brain. I don't know. I'm sorry if you like this book. So with all of that being said, that brings us to the end of the vlog. I had a 2.5 star, questionable 2.5 star. I had a solid 3 star, and then I guess that makes Shy Girl the winner for the video. That is a book that I'm still thinking about, although I think I'm gonna downgrade my rating to like a 4 star, but even that's like an apprehensive 4 star, because I have looked a little bit more into like the whole AI allegations, and I'll link Frankie's video down below. That is the one that I watched where they go through like the entire book, and when it's like, I don't know, all laid out the way that they laid it out in their video, I'm like, damn, that is kind of some solid evidence, and it's kind of making me question a lot more things. So I do think it's worth mentioning that that's a thing. I still believe that I don't think it was fully written by AI, but now I'm starting to see that it is quite possible that maybe there was some AI assistance in the writing process or refining certain things, which is quite unfortunate if true, but again, this is all just like a theory. There's no really hard evidence to it, but if you're interested, like I said, I will link that video down below because I feel like it's worth the watch. However, I did like the story and it has stuck with me. So this has been interesting because I feel like technically, if we're going off of ratings, that would be the win for the video, but I am like very apprehensive about like everything that I read for this, which is not the way that I expected it to go. As I previously mentioned, all three of these books were already on my TBR and things that I was very, very excited to read, things that I really, really wanted to read last year, didn't get to, was so excited to pick up for this video, and now I'm like, this is so strange that none of them was really a big win for me. Anyway, I will see you all later. I'm gonna give you, okay, the real ones. If you watch all the way to the end of the video, you will know that I'm actually going to be doing a second part to this of booktuber favorites. This year, I'm going to be exploring fantasy, so look forward to that. I don't know when that video will be up, because fantasy books are very long, and I don't know, I'm very excited for that because it's not a genre that I'm very comfortable and familiar with, so stay tuned. Look forward to that one, and thank you guys so much for watching.